Hey, I'm Jonathan, and I live in London, England.
Hey, I'm Jeff, and I live in Perth, Australia.
Together, we are Ekko and Sidetrack.
We produce music that sounds like this.
And this.
And even this. This podcast is about music, creativity, and everything in between the giant space that separates us.
Welcome to A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack. Today's episode of A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack is brought to you by Short Order Burger Co. I, for one, believe it's the best burger in Perth, Australia. And whether you live in Perth and you haven't tried it, or whether you're going to go to Perth and you're looking for the best burger, I advise you go to this place. They've got two stores, one on Hay Street in the city, 800 Hay Street, and one in Fremantle at 3 William Street. The Fremantle is a new store. It looks like an absolute vibe. Great place to go for a drink and enjoy a big old burger. This week, the code word has changed. When you go into the store, say reunited for a 10% discount on your order. That is code word reunited for a 10% discount at Short Order. Go out there and enjoy a burger, yo. This is a trigger warning. Today we have a special guest, our friend Ruth Royall. We discuss sexual abuse and issues about women's safety in society and a range of other topics. And if you have been a victim of such abuse or are sensitive to these issues, it might be a difficult conversation to listen to. But I think, again, it's an important one to have. So we hope you enjoy. Welcome back, everybody, to A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack. On today's episode, we're joined by a very special guest. Sorry, my voice.
You sound like you're on radio.
I am on radio. That guest is our friend Ruth Royall, aka the
Ruth
singer
Royall
on Paper Birds, aka a friend, aka a great woman, aka legend of the game. Ruth, how are you going today?
That got better as it went on. I like that. It peaked. It was good. I'm very well. Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be on the podcast again.
Yeah, this is first return guest.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'm assuming. I just said that so confidently. Like, yes, I am.
It is. I think we've only had 3 guests, and you're the first one. And now we're repeating that process nearly a year on, guys. It's nearly kind of been a year since we've met.
It is just a shy, by a week of when you sent through the vocal for Paper Birds.
Ah,
and I saw that I got the email and I was like, John, have you listened to this? This is really, 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 really good.
Oh, that's still one of my all-time favourite songs. I did a live stream pre-record the other day, and we did it at the end, and it was like all of the emotions, my feelings. It was really nice.
I recently played it at a show in Brisbane, and a guy told me later on Instagram that hearing that and our bootleg of 17 made him cry.
Aww.
And I was like, man, that's amazing. And that song, I still love playing that song in a set. I think I always will. And there's some part of me that, you kind of think ooh, is it a little bit emotional for a set? And I love just winding the club down into it and being like, nah, fuck it, you're going to come with me. And everyone does. And I think that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're doing Hospitality in the Woods, and I've had loads of people messaging me, asking me specifically if I'm going to be singing that song. So that's nice, isn't it?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
It's really nice.
It's amazing, how a song can take on such a life of its own.
Yeah.
And a year later, and it can still kind of be permeating and reaching people. It's knowing that someone cried in a club and had that kind of visceral emotional response in somewhere that you don't usually cry.
Yeah.
Is
I don't know. I'm weeping in clubs often. It's emotional music, drum and bass.
It's the greatest compliment you could ask for. Ruth, how, in a sentence, how has your last 6 months been?
My last 6 months, they've
been.
Have
more than a
that's
sentence.
the end of the sentence.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks, guys. It's been an honour. It's been absolutely mad. It's been the best sort of, in terms of my career. It's probably been the best time I've ever had. But it's all happened in this room. So it's like I've had these crazy string of releases and, you know, like crazy opportunities coming in, and I'm feeling incredibly lucky and excited, and I want to, like, you know, take it all on and do it to the best I can and all this kind of thing. But I literally haven't left this house. So it almost feels like it's not real in a way, because it's all happening through a screen, even though it is very much real. I can't wait to go out and meet all these people that I have been connecting with via live streams and online. And, you know, like you said, people getting in touch about songs. Like, I've had so many people reaching out and saying, telling me what songs mean to them, and like telling me what these songs have been getting them through. And like that, for me, is just, I just will never get over that. It makes everything just amazing. And I can't wait to go meet them all and play some gigs and like chat to them, and, you know, so it's it's been a really amazing time, and I'm feeling super excited, but also like raring to get out and do some live shows.
And when is your first in the wild performance?
I don't think I can say my first one, but the second one is
exclusive.
I'm not sure. I think maybe I can. Maybe I'm just being silly. I keep saying stuff in interviews, and I'm not allowed to say them, or like saying stuff. We've got a radio show, and I keep like saying stuff, and John's like, "Stop telling people things." Hospitality in the Woods is like the one that's been announced, which is really exciting, and that's like my first time hosting a stage, like, because I've done like the shows I did with Fred V and Graphics, but I was like the singer, and it was a very rehearsed show, and it was very like, you know, you go out and you do your bit and you know what's happening, and like it was amazing. Whereas this is, I'm going to be on the Solvent stage, and then I'm going to be with Graphics, with my boy Graphics on the hospitality stage.
Shout out to Joshua.
So that's exciting, and I can't wait. Basically, I'm just, you know, just looking forward to it. I just hope it goes ahead.
What's the date of it?
It's in September, so fingers crossed.
I feel like September is a more realistic outlook for UK and Europe than like maybe July. And I see a bunch of people like announcing shows and festivals on like June the 24th, and I'm like, Boris said June the 21st, and that was, if you actually look at the language they use, like, this is a plan that has not yet passed, that is not like, it's like a plan about a plan, and people are like, I'm going nuts on the 21st. And I think based on my experience down here, where we were like, everything's going to be unlocked on July the 31st last year, things still aren't back to 100% normal down here. And I'm just saying, like, you know, we haven't had it as bad as you, and you guys are rolling out the vaccine and everything like that. But there's like there's a certain amount.
No, we've got to stay sensible.
Yes.
And I don't want to go out and go nuts on the 21st of June. I'm still a bit nervous. Like, it's weird, isn't it? Because I have, like I was saying, I've been in my house the whole time, and I'm a bit like, ooh, you know, big crowds again. You know, it's good, and I'm looking forward to it. But I think like I want to go back into it gradually and be sensible.
John, I am so excited for you to come back to Perth, and that first time, like, you go into your quarantine, and then like a week later, we've got a show at a winery a few hours south of Perth. And I'm so excited for you to come to that show, because I reckon you're still going to be a bit like shell shocked, like in a big crowd. Like, is this allowed? There's no one wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think most people that have gone through harsh lockdowns and maybe mask laws and that type of thing for an extended period of time are going to find it quite odd to be back into normal society. And there's going to be some things that we just, you know, always think about. Like, I might always carry hand sanitizer with me. I put some on when I was on the bus today, and I was like, this is a good idea.
I think it's terrible
I'm
for your
touching
skin.
random shit all the time. And like, it's I should really be more careful of this. I mean, it's not great for your skin flora, but you can combat that
by putting your hands in
dirt all the time.
We have the same great ideas, Jonathan. It's like we're telepathic.
We are like
Geniuses.
we are telepathic.
I heard something cool the other day that was talking about that comparing this pandemic to the Spanish flu in 1918, and some commentators are saying that the pandemic in 1918 actually kind of led to the Roaring '20s.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, the bounce back was,
And we are in the 20s again.
Yeah, which like really ramped up, like just like the 20s kind of been kind of crazy, and that, like, I think between wars, depression.
I saw someone out in the street the other day, and that I knew, and they said, well, the last time we had, like, I think it was after the plague, there were orgies in the streets. I was like, my 21st of June. A little bit of raunchy.
It's going to be someone just like waiting on the 21st of June, like at the bus stop.
So where are these orgies then? I was promised orgies in the streets.
The orgies. I just like to get to the orgies. Like, they don't have to be near my house, but yeah, they're going to be orgies.
Just what's the address of the orgies? That would be really fun if that.
Would you participate in an orgy on June 21st?
I've got a great view from my balcony, so I'd probably just be a spectator. I'd be the creepy one.
Yeah, Ruth likes to watch. We're learning something about you. And Jono's like, you're seriously considering it, Jono. Like, if I had to go to Bristol,
you're putting some serious thought into this.
So Ruth can oversee it.
If I'm hesitant to go to a festival, I think I should be even more hesitant to join some sort of 10 or 20 person orgy.
10 or 20? More like 200.
Yeah, come on. Let's be real.
The idea of being involved in a street orgy is kind of, there's an element of excitement of that. Not sexual excitement, but more so like you get to be part of something. And it would be quite a crazy way to
join
bring in
a football
Speaking
club.
of orgies, this isn't quite an orgy, but it's a big ruckus. We just had massive riots in Bristol. Have you seen the news?
Whoa. How come?
We could see them all from our balcony because we're right in the centre, and there was like a police van was set on fire, and we heard it exploding, like helicopters everywhere, fireworks were being set off, like really mad. Like, we had riots in Bristol a few years ago, and these were so much bigger the other day. Like, it was crazy. Like, we could just hear, like, we opened the window and they're like riot police running down the road, like yelling, and it was honestly, it was quite scary, but also a bit exciting. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, madness. It was it started really peacefully because it was about the new. I mean, ironically, a bill coming in to stop people protesting. So people were protesting the right to protest, and it got violent. Sadly, I don't think it's a good thing that it got violent at all. It started off really peacefully, but it's just it's kind of. I feel like we're living in really crazy times.
Sometimes these things start peacefully and get violent because they're trying to get them to be violent, so there's more reason to use force.
Yeah, there's all sorts of statements being retracted from the police at the moment. Like, they were saying, the police had a broken arm or something, and they're now retracting that. It's like, oh, so you didn't, like, what? And it's I don't know where I sit on it. I don't know, like, I don't know how. I don't condone violence, but I can understand why people are so angry, and like the situation where everybody's been locked in and everybody is like, it's like the pressure is gonna burst, and I feel like that was it bursting. And
what's we've had law? Sorry.
So the bill, I mean, don't quote me on this because I've read articles, but I haven't read the actual bill.
We make wild statements on this podcast all the time. Please,
I'm going to just make a wild generalizing statement. No, I'm basically Facebook right now. So it's a bill to say that they want to come down harder on violent protests, but they want people to get permission to protest but they can say no if it's like a nuisance. So it's like, isn't that what a protest is? Isn't that like the whole point of a protest? Whoa. So nothing's going to get through.
That's how you make change.
Stinks of dictatorship.
It does.
Yeah.
It does, because if they don't like something, they can just be like, well, no, you can't protest that.
But like, think of all the protests that have happened that are have given us what we have today. You know, like obviously the obvious ones, women's rights. That was a bit of a pain, wasn't it? You know, that was a nuisance.
Exactly.
That was really violent, those protests. You know, and also Extinction Rebellion. That wouldn't have happened because it stopped traffic and it stopped people getting to work. And that's one of the things that they're saying that can't happen. And it's like, that's a massively important protest that happened.
Yeah. I would also argue that nuisance is almost part of some protests. You have,
it is.
if you're going to stop the people that might have something to do with a law changing or something, then that's how you get the subject in front of their face. Was there something about their protest in front of Parliament House or something?
Yeah, I mean, there were more protests than the one in Bristol. It's just this is the one that got violent. But I feel like I'm giving misinformation here, so because I'm not massively clued up on where the protests were.
No, but I think part of the bill was that they were saying that there'd be certain places you cannot protest.
Yeah, that's right.
This is starting to get really controlly. It's like, yes, you're allowed to have a voice, but we'd prefer if you kept it to a minimum, kept it down, and whispered it over there.
Yeah,
You can't have a protest that is controlled by a government, because the whole point of a protest is that you're going against what the government or you're going against what the governing body of something is saying. You can't be like, I've got something to say, and then that person then goes, okay, well, you can go say that, but only in this room, and only 50 people can go there, and these are the rules. It's just, it's gross. You need freedom to protest.
It's like that scene from Arrested Development where Portia de Rossi's character says she's like going to the animal rights protest, and she like turns up, and they're like, yeah, we're just going to take you to the protesting area, and they put them in a cage off to the side. Like 150 meters away from the road where the things are.
Yeah.
And it's like they're all just in this cage protesting, like, and they're not clearly not making a difference. And that's, here it is.
I mean, it's a joke,
reality.
but that's like what it feels like is happening anyway. I think protests are so emotional, and like I think a lot of people's responses are very emotional at the moment because everything's heightened. You can see that on social media, and you can see that. So I mean, I'm speaking for the UK here, and so people's responses are probably going to be a bit more jerk reaction, and not necessarily looking at everything. And I keep trying to remind myself, because I keep getting that, I see something and I'm like, oh my God, we're losing the right to protest. And then I'm like, okay, wait, no, go and read some stuff. So I was like trying to find some articles to read, and like reading them from different newspapers as well, to try and kind of get the two different sides. And no, it's still really bad. Just like, nope, I still feel angry. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
I think like you have to be able to, like, especially nowadays where like the power of protest has almost never been this strong. Like, you think about how moving, even if it's just emotionally moving, the BLM protests were last year. How suddenly, probably not for long enough, but the whole world, or at least a lot of the Western world, were talking about people of color and how they're treated in society, and it has put a mirror up to how we kind of think and how we look at our lives and how we treat our friends who are from different countries and different nationalities and all that type of thing.
Made us like take a long, hard look at ourselves. I feel anyway.
Absolutely.
As a white person, I was like, right, shit, I need to really do some work and like start educating myself and start taking this on as a white problem. And it was like,
absolutely,
that was such an amazing thing to come out of those protests. And that's what protests can do. That's like, they start conversations.
And if the protest, if that law had been passed and that those protests wouldn't have happened, then we wouldn't be talking, like, the conversation wouldn't still be going on.
Yeah.
And then, the people in society that feel, people of color and the people that feel kind of unheard would just still be feeling like shit and still be feeling like no one cares.
Yeah.
But I think the power of seeing, even if the protests don't get anything like laws passed, I think it's very powerful to see that there are so many people on your side and that they care.
Yeah.
I mean, you can. It's the same with the protests that were at Clapham Common for Sarah Everard. Like the amount of women and men that rocked up as a sign of solidarity was an extremely powerful kind of thing to see. I had a friend that went there, and she was like, you could feel the emotion and the anger, and you could just feel it in the air. And that comes from people amassing and people sharing an experience and people kind of standing up to something and saying, we've had enough. We're not going to take it. This has to change.
Yeah.
And I guess that leads into what we kind of want to talk about today.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, Jeff and I had a podcast where we talked about a plethora of things, including women's experience with violence perpetrated by men. We touched a bit on female sexuality and how there's a lot of shame, and basically we talked about a lot of women's issues. And I think it's good for two guys to talk about that because I think it's an interesting conversation. But we wanted to get your take on it and hear some of your experiences and basically, talk to you about.
Yeah, I think it's great that you're talking about it though between you. Like, I think that's, it's good that you recognise that you want to get a female perspective, but it's also a good conversation for two men to have.
I think it's a guy issue, particularly the recent thing with a man murdering a woman.
Yeah,
that's not a female problem. That's a male issue.
Yeah,
it's like it shouldn't be cast as a female problem. Oh, women have to watch out. It's like no, men have to not attack people, women particularly. Yeah. So what's the vibe like? The vibe that seems to trivialize it, doesn't it? For post this, what's it feel like being a woman walking home and stuff?
I haven't been out, so I feel it's a bit different for me. It's raised the subject again, but I actually had more impact. The Me Too movement triggered me a bit more. And made me kind of really think about stuff. Unfortunately, it's like a subject that comes round and round for women, and it's part of your learning process of what to expect and how to deal with it, because you will have to at some point. And it's kind of too normal. It's too normal for me as a woman, not having these conversations, because it's not necessarily a conversation that you have. Because actually what I find I do with my own personal experiences is I try to protect other people from hearing my stuff, because it's not very nice, And so I'm constantly thinking outwardly. I'm thinking right, I don't want to upset anybody, but I also need to protect myself. So I need to make sure I do that. And then I need to make sure that I make this decision so this doesn't harm me. I don't actually often think, I need to have this conversation to teach people what's happening. And I think that needs to shift, that needs to change. And, I am quite a I don't like making a fuss kind of thing. I don't like getting in the way. I think that's probably a British thing as well, and my family is quite like that. So that doesn't help. But actually, one of my experiences in business and in career is I have my manager is he's a massive feminist, and he actually reminds me of things all the time, and I'm like, oh, okay, great, yeah, no, and I feel like I've got an ally, and that is so important. Having men speak up for you to you sometimes and remind you that it's okay to say things and it's okay to not agree with things. And I think that needs to, because that's just in a business sense, that needs to happen so much more in a personal sense, and in day-to-day things. And that's hard to do. That is really hard to do for both sides, because you don't want to, and upset a conversation or like make things awkward or all that kind of things. But picking up on language, language is the beginning of things.
For sure.
When people are derogatory, pick up on it and say, what do you mean by that? And one really good thing is to ask people to repeat what they said. Like, sorry, could you just repeat that? Because they'll hear it back again and they'll go, oh, actually, that's not so good. And you've pulled them up on it without having to say, I don't like what you're saying.
Whoa,
you just say, sorry, could you repeat that?
So it's like they're like almost have to censor themselves and be like, whoa,
yeah,
where did that come from?
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
So like I think it's probably because I keep sort of touching on things and not saying, but like for me, my experience is I was attacked when I was very young. I was 9. And I got attacked by a complete stranger who was I was walking my dog and it was unfortunately it was attempted rape, but he didn't manage it because I was a tough cookie. But that has stayed with me for my whole life, as it does. I'm at the point now that it's I talk about it very openly and it doesn't affect me, but it's left me with certain PTSD things, really strange things. I can't do the dentist. Can't have like anyone near my face, hands near my face. Have like a proper jerk reaction where I'll like lash out. And it's something that I always have to tell sexual partners, and it's for me that's a normal part of my life. Whereas I have to explain to them, some things I can't deal with, or like if I respond like this, it's not you. It's like this is a reaction because of trauma in my past. And for me, that's a normal thing. And that, it is quite an extreme case, but I'm actually not actually convinced it is. I think it's extreme because I was so young, but most women have got some experience like that then stays with you for the rest of your life. Like that was one day, 1 hour, and that has affected me for the rest of my life, and that's a male problem. That's his problem that he did that to a child, and like it's amazing like how normalized I've made it, and I kind of forget things. Like I, as a child, couldn't deal with adult men, and I didn't actually realize that. I thought that was normal. So doctors couldn't be men right up until like I was like 18, 19, couldn't deal with male doctors near me. And, it was just something that mum would be like, oh, she was attacked as a child, so we have to do this. And, everyone's great. And they're like, oh, of course, absolutely, work around it and stuff. But that's just a normal thing. Oh, she was attacked as a child.
Yeah,
that's not normal. Yeah. That is not a normal thing to deal with. And I think it's made me very like open about it because to other women, but not to men. Like I'll talk to women about it and make sure women are okay, and kind of like talk about things and make sure people are safe. Always make sure my female friends are safe. We just would never leave someone in a club. Would just never like you don't just go home. Just don't do that. You make sure someone's with if they're going home, they don't go home on their own, or like you can see their Uber. That's what's really good with Ubers, isn't it? You can share it so you can see where they are. Mm-hmm. Just little things like that it's just normalized. And what I think is happening in a similar way to when the BLM protests happening, it's being picked up as a male issue, and men are starting to go, okay, great, we need to really start talking about this within our, between ourselves, and working out ways to deal with it, because it's the little things that, it's the little rocks that build a dam. And those little things like, can you repeat yourself, or can you repeat that, and a guy doing that, you don't have to do it in a like, I am defending a woman, you don't have to do it in that way. But it really goes a long way, because it makes I've had situations where that hasn't happened, and I've had situations where that has happened, and I felt much safer when it has happened, and like it's such a small thing as someone being like, oh, hang on a minute, what did you mean by that? Yeah. And I'm like, and I just go, because I don't have to do it. I don't have to be like the difficult woman, because we have that all the time everywhere. If you say your opinion, or you say you don't like something, or you like, well, she's difficult to work with, or she's a difficult person. And that may not be the case, but you feel like you're going to get that response because that's what's drilled into us. So
that's a story that society tells you.
That's it, yeah. If you don't have to do that one tiny little thing, you can go, relax, okay, cool. I can be myself, and I can, speak my mind, and it's okay. But yeah, that's what it. I think the recent reaction has been doing.
And yeah, I'm really sorry that happened to you, and I think that gives you a very unique perspective on things, and it's also far too common. I think, like chatting. Yeah,
I don't think it is as unique as you'd think, and it because it's not talked about, because it's not exactly like conversation that you. By the way, it's going to put a downer on the evening.
I think like you said, like it is maybe talked about in female circles. We've got less than a minute on this actually, so let's pause for a second.
It's good actually. The break's good because I've thought about something as well of one of the reasons that women don't talk to men about it, I think. Because we were just saying like women talk within female circles, but there's this weird sense of protecting men. It's this weird like, I don't want to upset anyone. Like, I want to protect you because this isn't a very nice subject. It's like women don't talk about periods to men. Yeah, why not? Yeah. It's like, it's painful. It's a pain in the ass. Like, you have to deal with it if you live with me. If you're my partner, you're going to have to deal with it. You have to understand what periods do. Like that's if you're in a heterosexual relationship, and then that is part. That is just one of those things, and it should be the same thing with abuse and aggression towards women. That should be something that we don't have to protect men from, that conversation.
Absolutely. I think men naturally, or maybe not naturally, but just men, that might be, and it should be, and it's an uncomfortable conversation for a lot of men to hear. Mm. And maybe that's why women want to try to protect them. But from there, like, oh, I just won't talk to him about that. I'll talk to my girlfriends about that. But really, it should be a discussion that's had, especially with partners. But it should be more of an open discussion. I mean, I've been told things by some of my girlfriends because they've felt comfortable opening up to me about it, which I think has been real good. But that's not particularly normalized, in my opinion. It's not a normal thing for a woman to talk about an experience like that with a man so openly and comfortably.
I think the awareness level needs to go up, because it's not nice to ask for help. Like, if you're in a situation where you feel vulnerable, it's actually like I was in a situation. I'm not going to give too much information because I don't want to say like where it is. But I was in a situation with someone else's work, so it wasn't anything to do with my work, and I was in a space that like I didn't know the people, and one of the guys there was really drunk and was touching my leg under the table, and I kept trying to move away, and I needed someone to go, "Are you okay? Do you want to swap?" Like, I needed someone to do that, and no one picked up on it. And like, he was getting really close to me, and like it was quite obvious, like he was flirting with me in a very like creepy way. So that's enough, to go, dude, can you just chill out? She's clearly doesn't want you to do that, like that's, and because it was an environment that I didn't know the people, and it was a work environment for someone else, I didn't want to rock the boat in case that was someone important. I didn't want to. Yeah, because normally I'd be like, "Fuck off, get away from me." That's what I would do in a situation where I didn't know the person, you know. But that was a point where I needed an ally. I needed someone just simply to be, or someone to put their arm around me, someone else to put their arm around me, you know, or like someone to just be like, oh, do you want to go to the loo? Like, I don't know. Like, so, do you want a drink? Do you want to go to the bar?
Yeah.
Like, you know, just something like that. And I think that's where it's a situation, and that's a very, very common situation. That's very common. And I think that's when it is a guy's responsibility. Because there wasn't any other women there. If a woman had seen that, I guarantee she'd have stepped in and been like, I know what that feels like. I'm going to go and sort that out. But because a lot of guys, not all guys, you know, because this sort of stuff does happen to guys as well. But the majority of men don't know what that feels like, so they don't pick up on it. So that's when you need to be empathetic, put yourself in someone else's shoes, you know, think, okay, something's happening. I can do something about this. What can I do? How can I do? So that person doesn't need to ask for help, or that person doesn't need to make a scene, or, you know, that person doesn't need to be difficult because you're already feeling vulnerable as it is. And it's, that's a nice, easy solution.
It's crazy that male who was being inappropriate to you wouldn't have responded as well to like much else, didn't pick up on your cues, didn't do anything. But if someone had have come over and said, and like kind of taken ownership in that weird way, he would have been like, oh, Jane does not belong to me. Like
That's the
it's
classic
so
alpha
like
thing.
Yeah, primitive and stupid.
Men know from a woman isn't enough.
Yeah.
It has to be a man showing that they're already with them.
Yeah.
So that like a man only respects a no from a man.
And this guy was an older guy as well, so it's a different generation. And like that's
Don't make
like,
excuses.
That's
for
what
him,
I mean.
Ruth.
That's the thing.
Fuck that guy.
But no, exactly. But this is the thing that so many people are like, you know, it's different times. No, it's not. It's just like it's the same thing. Just because you know, but they have. I do notice that like a lot of older guys, especially like business guys, have a different attitude. And like I'm lucky that I work in a creative environment with you know, a lot of people. I feel like a lot of guys my age are, well, you know, like you guys are having this conversation, are talking about it and learning about it. And so it's sometimes even more of a shock when you end up in a different situation and you don't have any resources in you to go, whoa, fuck off, because you weren't expecting it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the older generation kind of concept, it might not, it's like definitely not an excuse, but it's kind of like, that's how it's been done forever, so we'll just continue doing it in this legacy format. It's like, oh no, I've always tried to touch up the secretary. I've always spanked her ass. Oh, I've always told her how like great she looks, and aren't I paying her a compliment by saying that I'd take her home anytime and replace my wife? No, you're being a creepy fuck.
Yeah. And also sex being used as currency is a big thing. Is a big thing with women, and something that I had to unlearn as an adult, because when I was a teenager and when I was like growing up, that was something that was, I thought that's what guys wanted to hear. So, you know, you're kind of using sex as a, not the actual physical act, but the talking about it as like, this is the thing I have as of power, which it's not. It's sex is a thing you do together, and it's a very like personal thing between two people, and that's how, and it should be respected.
Absolutely.
But that language again comes back to the language thing. When sex is being talked about as it's being done to a woman, that's something that is a really good thing to pick up on as well. If, you know, I'm going to fuck her, I'm going to do this to her, and the woman isn't there, or you know, like, be like, sorry, what are you going to do to her? What do you mean to her? Don't you mean with her? You know, and like things like that, actually, they make people go, ooh, oh, okay. Or make people go, oh, I can't get away with that. You know, and that's important to say, no, you can't get away with that. That's not good. You shouldn't be speaking like that. So I think, you know, sex is still something that we're having to navigate, like the language of sex is still something we're having to navigate.
When you were growing up, say this is your early teenage years, and you're starting to like going through puberty and talking about sex and these things, are you conscious of an input that is making you feel and view sex as a currency and kind of use this kind of language? Are you conscious of learning these things from one input, or is this just how it's being talked about with your friends, or how it's being told by older people? Like, are you conscious of any of this when you're younger?
I couldn't pinpoint it onto one thing. It's interesting because, you know, my mother is very open about how, you know, and she's very balanced in the way that she talked about things with me, and, you know, taught me to respect sex and all, you know, all these kind of things. So I felt like I had a really good influence there, but I was still getting it from somewhere else. And I think, you know, it may have been TV programs. It may have been, you know, like we used to watch loads of like things like South Park and stuff like that when I was a teenager, and all that kind of stuff. And so I think it's there. And, you know, obviously when you're a teenager, you want to be shocking. You want to say things that are like, yeah, man, I'm cool, and I'm gonna. When actually you're not. You're still like, oh God, I know what's going on. You know. So there is that. You know, there is that element of like, okay, cool. You know, you're just kind of saying things for shock factor there, but there clearly was some kind of message going in, and I didn't feel like I could really talk about sex with male friends or anyone really, unless it was that shock factor, unless it was, I'm talking about sex and it's explicit, you know.
It's like a defense mechanism.
Yeah. Whereas I think now kids are, I mean, God, the next generation are just legends. They're just dealing with all of this shit that they're getting given and being like, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to conform to that, you know. And I just think it's amazing. I think what's the generation called? No, I don't know what generation it's called. Z, X, W.
It's not X.
What are we?
Yeah,
millennials.
I don't.
We're X, right?
I don't know.
No, we're not millennials.
I don't know what
I think
they
it's
are.
millennials.
Whatever they are,
millennials,
they're
so-
amazing. You know, and I think, you know, I just think the way that I wasn't able to talk about that, and so sexual aggression towards me, I didn't defend myself. I didn't say that makes me feel uncomfortable. Yeah. I went, okay, cool. I guess that's a compliment that you're saying you want to do all these things to me in front of people that I know. Thanks. And you literally like thank them for like saying something horrendous about you. Yeah. Because I didn't have I wasn't being taught that that's not okay. So more conversations, you know, more like teach our boys, you know, how to communicate. And, you know, physical contact with boys is so important. We have so much, like, we treat boys and girls so differently as children, and boys is very like rough and tumble and very, you know, teach them to play fight and all this kind of thing. And, you know, don't throw like a girl because girls don't do that, you know, all that kind of thing.
Or don't run. You run like a girl.
So, you know, boys need affection, physical contact, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Boys need too. And teaching young boys that a physical contact is about aggression then leads to, okay, so physical contact, when they start having physical contact in the teenage years and become sexual, then it's aggressive because they haven't had that loving, affectionate, you know, or so much loving, affectionate contact younger. So, you know, we need to be shifting these things.
I seem to remember being in primary school and you would hug. You know, I've always loved hugging people, but I remember like you'd hug one of your guy friends and someone would be like, mate, that's super gay.
Yeah.
And instantly there's always the connection between kind of physical touch between young boys or like expressing emotion to one of your friends as being effeminate and being
and that being a bad thing, you know. It's like,
and that being a bad thing.
Yeah.
And that kind of it kind of changes in high school, but you never talk about how it changed.
Yeah.
I think it gets even more squirrely in high school because you don't know what's going on because you're a teenager with all this like hormones pulsing through your body, and it doesn't kind of get normalized until you're an adult. And if you've learnt the wrong things, then you don't know what to do. Like, I hug so many of my friends, but that's because, John, I reckon we've got an affectionate family. Like, I give my dad a good night hug. I tell him I love him all the time. There are some people out there whose relationship with, male to male are like, I don't handshakes. I handshake with my dad.
Yeah.
We never hug, and that's kind of a weird thing. And it can make for not negative understandings of physical contact, but like it makes you less likely to have physical contact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something I have thought about a bit over the last few years, and I was going to ask you if you had any opinion on it, Ruth, and Jonathan. I have this weird theory about the misappropriation of things like S&M and like aggressive sex or seemingly like what's the kind of correct term?
It's S&M, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's S&M. Okay, let's call it S&M. It got popularized with things like 50 Shades of Grey and everything like that. And then it wouldn't be uncommon to have it come up when you were having sex with someone. And I was aware of some stuff, but I had listened to some podcasts where people had talked to dominatrixes and like all sorts of things before it came up in my own life. And so I had this different understanding of it. I was like, oh, I think that whole thing is all about trust and like freedom through restriction and all this kind of stuff. But then it hit the mainstream and people were just like, oh, I think I like choke the bitch and slap her and she likes it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I think you just got into really, really weird territory. And then what can be worse is that if the female is just as uninitiated as the male, she might be like, oh, some of that felt good.
Not sure where the boundaries are, sort of thing.
I think I can. And then they encourage that. Then the male goes further. And then like, there's no trust. There's no connection. It's just rough sex, like really rough sex.
Yeah.
And then people walk away going like even more confused because they go like, I like that. Am I meant to like that? Like,
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, you're meant to enjoy all these things. Sex is such a panoply of like things that you can enjoy, and there should be no shame around any of them. But I think as we've seen the sexualization of younger and younger people, and also this like proliferation of rough S&M style sex into the mainstream, I think people just don't understand it. And now the norm is like, oh yeah, I love this, this, and this. And it's like, do you actually? Or is that just what you think people like? And do you actually understand how the sex is good? Or do you think
that's what you're supposed to like? Or
that's what you're supposed to like?
Yeah. I think you're right in that it's definitely a trust thing. I wish, like my friend, she is so informed on this subject, and she's fantastic. And I'm not as informed on it. So I just wish I could just channel her right now, because she'd just be like, yes, this is really great. This, just have all this information. And it's 100% about the trust. This is what she always says. And it's an interesting subject because it can be interpreted as just straight up aggression, and that's that's not what sex is about. It's got to work for both of you. It's got to be this kind of unity. That's again going back to the thing, a language of doing it to someone, doing it with someone. There's the two very different things. But yeah, it did get very kind of normalized, didn't it, with all of that. With all of that stuff. I was in a very monogamous, boring relationship when that came out, so I wasn't so like out in the world.
The other strange thing is you hear other guys talking about it, and all of a sudden it gets normalized. It's like, I did this, this, and this. Right.
Maybe that's a conversation that happens more with men then, because I haven't had that so much.
For sure it happens, but then it gets, because it's getting normalized, people think that like, oh yeah, I do this fucking shit all the time.
Yeah.
I'm fucking like, and that just normalizes the line of violence.
Mm-hmm.
That's where like the alpha, again, it's like the dick measuring contest between guys.
Yeah.
So if one friend is like, oh, fucking Sally likes being choked and I do it all the time, and then another guy's like, well, I like doing this to my girlfriend, and it's just like, again, just like a one-upmanship
Yeah.
of bullshit that's following the script.
Yeah.
That's following the script that you don't actually agree with, but you want to sound cool.
And no one talks about doing it properly or any of the things that you should be. It's just like, I did this mad thing. It's like, I jumped off this bridge. I jumped off a taller bridge. I treat women worse than you do. I'm banging 2 girls at once.
Yeah.
Like, all this kind of stuff. It just encourages the aggression and you buy into it. God forbid you're just a little person that just goes, oh, I just like sleeping like this.
You
know?
could, but is there room for that? You still want to one up your friends, but could you just be like, I made her come 15 times.
You're a fucking liar, man. That's probably what would happen.
Yeah, that's true. Your friend would be like, yeah, well, I didn't even come. I haven't come
whoa,
for
you're a hero.
for 4 weeks, but she has like, I'm taking care of her so well. Like, could the dialogue?
Could it?
That would be
yeah,
so good.
I know what you
So
mean.
good.
Could it shift?
One-upmanship.
But I think that's a
it
guy's
be positive?
responsibility, you know, because I'm not in.
Yeah,
you know, I have a
absolutely.
lot of male friends. Like the majority of my friendship circle is guys, always has been. That's just kind of like, you know. So I'm there for a lot of guy chat, and you know, I always
Yeah.
get referred to. But it's fine. Ruth's a bloke. It's like, well, hang on. It was, you know, and it was like, you know, but I don't think I see all of that, you know, when guys are just guys. And so,
Yeah.
you know, I think because also now I would be like, whoa, I don't want to hear that. Or like, I don't want you to talk like that, you know, especially if I was with my friends. But like, if that's a situation that it is just guys and that is happening and you feel weird about it, so say like, what do you actually mean? Like, you have actually done that and she's okay with that? And like, have you asked her if she likes that?
Again, it's like standing up and checking people and being assertive and not being kind of hesitant or afraid to ruffle someone's feathers.
Yeah.
Being like, standing up and be like, hey, like, are you being serious when you say that? I think
That's a great one. Are you
that's
being
such
serious
an
when you say that?
important thing.
Like, that's,
because most of the time, I mean, I've had the conversation again. It's men following a script at some of Jeff's friends' Bucks parties that I've attended. You see a group of older guys, and you might talk to one of them you haven't spoken to, and you're like, "Oh, how's your family? How's your wife?" And they're like, "Oh, the fucking old ball and chain. Like, fucking can't wait to get away from her." And I'm like, "But do you actually think that? Like, is your relationship not going well?" And they're like, "Oh no, it's fine." And you're like, "Then what script are you following?
Yeah.
Are you just
You're creating this enemy of the woman. It's
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
she doesn't
So-
let me go out. She never
Yeah.
lets me go out. Sure.
So are you going to have a divorce? Like,
Yeah.
are we
Is it-
discussing your relationship?
fair enough. Is it not
or
going
are you
well?
just are you saying that because that's just what you think I want to
Yeah.
hear? You know, it's like it's checking and it's you know, asking people to clarify.
yeah, exactly.
I
And
think
it's such a
asking
powerful
a
thing.
follow-up question is
Such
so
a powerful thing
yeah.
to do. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's again, it comes back to communication and, you know, boundaries. Boundaries is something that we have to learn, like with everything, you know, with partying, with health, with like everything.
Yeah.
Like what's your boundary? And you aren't gonna figure that out until you do it. You know, you have to live life and, you know, get to that point. But teaching kids and teaching ourselves that it's okay to say that you've reached your boundary, you know, and it's okay to say that doesn't feel good. You know, I don't want to do that. You know, and it's your body, men and women, you know, like it's your body. And if something's happening to your body that doesn't feel good, and also, you know, like you were saying, Jeff, like the boundaries of like, that kind of did feel good, but that was not nice, but it kind of was nice. So I guess exploring that conversation and talking about it and saying
Yeah.
that, you know, because then then you get to a point that it is between the two of you, and it's not something that's happening that you're like, oh, I feel like I should probably be doing this, and I kind of like it, but I don't, but then I feel weird, and all that kind of thing. And so be open about it.
Yeah. That we were saying the other week, like the best kind of sex is sex you have that's like communication and exchange, and you can be like, oh, like let's try this, or like, oh, I would like this, or that works for me. How does that feel for you, and stuff like that, rather than just this like thrusting up against each other and being like, God, I hope this feels good for her. I think it does. It's kind of dark.
God, I hope this is okay.
Yeah, and then the girl's probably being like, "This feels really weird. Does this feel good for him?"
Okay,
I don't know. Maybe I should.
Maybe I'm supposed to enjoy this. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And if you just put down dropped the preconception that you're this fucking sexual god or sexual goddess, and just said, "Hey, what's going to work for you? What's better?" It's going to be like, "Oh." The other person's like, oh, yeah, you're going to be vulnerable.
And it's incredibly
to me.
sexy. It's incredibly sexy if someone says, is that good for you? It's like, wow, great. It's nice to be considered,
John,
Exactly.
I reckon that orgasm comment in like, imagine like, all the bunch of boys are going at it telling stories and then just being like, telling some story and being like, yeah, I made her come like 15 times, I think. I could get her on the phone. I can, confirm that or something. And they would just be like, no, but it would just deflate the whole conversation.
If one of my friends said that about his partner, I'd be like, "You're a legend."
Yeah, that's what I'd be like. Goddamn hero.
Like, fuck yeah. And I'd probably message her and be like, "Well done." Like, what? How did you get to this place? Like, this is so healthy. Like, that's what's kind of attractive to me. Any sort of alphaing or macho madness or any stuff that,
but it is
that just feels.
Don't you find
so
that it's usually the situations that you're not with your friends, like because we pick our friends, don't we? We have affinities with people that are like-minded to us, and I'm probably not going to be in that probably hasn't happened to me lots because my friends aren't the kind of people that are like, I fucked her this many times and this happened and I was choking her. They're not going to say that because they're not these kind of men. So it's usually the situations where you're with people that you don't know, and it is a bit scarier to say something, and it is a bit, or it's usually someone else's friend, so you don't want to upset that, So it's if we can find these little tools to navigate that, where you don't have to be what's the word, like not aggressive, but like you don't have to be inflammatory. You don't have to say something that is going to upset people, but you can still say, I don't think that's really a great way to word that, or do you really mean that, or just little things like that, because it's easier when it's your friends, isn't it? Because you can just call them a dickhead and move on.
but being like standing up or voicing your opinion in a room of strangers or friends of friends where you've been brought in, that's can be quite uncomfortable.
Exactly,
for a man, and that's probably the most amount of uncomfortability we sometimes feel.
Now flip it and imagine that you're in that situation, but you're the one that's being that you've got predators coming at you, and you're the one that not only is being attacked, but you're having to then say, well, I need to stand up for this. That's why we need allies. That's because you're already dealing with so much by just holding your shit together and not having a meltdown. Like, full-on panic attacks happen from the wrong kind of interaction with a guy. Like, for me, obviously, I have past trauma, so it triggers PTSD, and like full-on the shakes, crying. You don't want to do that in a room of people you don't know. Just because of the wrong kind of interaction, just because of like someone getting too close to my face. That's always the thing of like hands near the face, things like that. It's going to trigger me. So I need someone to then say that's not okay, because I'm dealing with all the other stuff of holding it together. Exactly. I don't want to then have to stand up for women, like teach them, educate them on their behavior. It's
like you're lifting something up, or you're trying to push something up and it's just getting a bit too heavy. You do need someone to come over and be like, I'll help you.
Yeah.
That's so important. And I think like that's something I'm going to kind of be as aware of as possible to kind of, I don't know, to look out for my female friends. I feel like if I was in that room with you and that creepy guy, I might not have picked up on that. Like, it, you know, and I think I'd like to think I would.
Yeah.
I want to be more kind of conscious of that type of thing. And just looking out and being like, okay, that's where she is. It's all good. Being more aware of that rather than just being like, oh, I wonder what's going on.
I remember girls are
and
really
just
good at playing
thinking
it
that it's
cool.
safe.
Like, because we're so used to
Fuck yeah.
this happening.
Fuck yeah.
We're
That's
really
crazy.
good at making everyone else feel comfortable. So we won't react. We won't look like something's wrong because we don't want to make a fuss. So be aware of that, you know, like look further than, oh, she looks okay.
Yeah.
Just be like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Actually,
Hey,
no.
Ruth.
Okay, cool. I'll step
What
in.
do you think
know.
causes men to do? Oh, sorry, I won't say men because it's a big sweeping generalization. What do you think causes a man to behave violently towards a woman, like what happened with Sarah?
I really don't know. I really, really don't know. I guess everything comes from your own trauma, doesn't it? And everything comes from how you're raised, what you're taught, like how you're taught to respond in situations, and fear. I guess a lot of stuff comes from fear. A lot of aggression is fear, isn't it? I think if I knew, I'd be out there.
Yeah, for sure. The reason I asked
shouting
is 'cause
about it.
It's like, what do women see? Can you identify a creepy dude pretty quickly? Yeah, what is it? What are you seeing? Like before he starts
Absolutely.
talking to you and things like that.
Danger. You see danger, you just, all lights go on and you're like, okay, cool. I need to navigate my way in this room that stays out of his way. And you, like, usually they're like finding an excuse to talk to you and making a joke of it, or like finding an excuse to bring you up in the conversation in the room of people, and you're like just trying to hide, you know, just trying to. And I just, every woman knows that.
Yeah.
Dude, every woman knows that guy. It's and it just takes all of your focus away. It's a pain in the ass. Like, if you're at a party or you're with your friends and that happens, all your focus has to go to sorting that out. Like, you can't then just go, well, you can. This is what you should do, or should be able to do, is, guys, I'm feeling really uncomfortable because this dude is doing this. Can we just take a minute? Dude, can you just stop? Like, it's going to affect my whole night, sort of thing. But we don't kind of just sort of go, oh, okay, right, if I never get over there, I don't want to make a thing because they're having a nice time, so I don't interrupt that. You know,
I feel like I've
you can
been
definitely
somewhere, John.
spot it.
Just you saying that, Ruth, like, John, were we somewhere and like some dude was like kind of like drunkenly like talking to a group of people we were with, and then we kind of had to have a chat. Like, we just like, oi, you need to fuck off. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, you're clearly making everyone uncomfortable. We're at a festival or something. It just seems all too familiar.
Yeah.
Just being like, you need to fuck off.
That's
you're not
really good.
talking to anyone here. No one knows you. No one fucking, you followed us from this area. Like, I just can't remember. It just sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I think those people are much easier to
Identify.
And I think that when you're in a, we've all been in green rooms, and there's always been that weird guy, or been at a party.
Yeah.
Where there always is that weird guy.
It's when it's the friends of
from
friends
guys,
that it's hard.
Yes, when it's like, that's
really
when
hard.
identifying that and being active about saying fuck that guy. I might say to Jeff, if we're somewhere, and be like, have you met someone? So like, that guy's fucked. Like, fuck him. But I'm not like, I've identified a problematic person, so I am now going to point that out to my female friends, or I'm going to point that out to
You won't need to point that out to your female friends. They'll know.
But like, I think that's like taking it to the next step, because I do believe men can identify creepy dudes as well.
Yeah.
But I think we can dismiss it because we don't have to
Or
deal with it.
Oh, they're a really nice guy
instantly.
normally. They're just drunk.
Oh,
So
no.
like, don't behave like that.
It's like they're so used to going over the line that it becomes normal. Like people, oh,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
yes, or it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
fucking so on. So you're like, nah, if someone pulled him up on it, it would stop. And I think sometimes the
Yeah.
line, as it gets crossed and crossed, people think they can get away with
Gets
it,
blurred.
and they're like, oh, this is just how I act. Like if we normalize this around, people.
Come on, guys!
Yeah.
I'm just having a laugh. Like it's just a joke.
No, it's not, because it's not a joke, because you're, that it's that serious but joking, testing the water thing. Like, oh, you should do this.
Yeah.
And then if someone said yes, you'd be like, oh, let's like get out of here. But if they're like, what the fuck did you just say to me? You'd be like, I'm just joking.
I'm just chill
Yeah.
out.
Whoa,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
crazy,
exactly.
man. Are you? Oh, she's
exactly.
crazy. No, you're a
Yeah.
fuckwit.
Yeah.
It's just overreacting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Ruth, I wanted to ask you, if we can go back to it, your experience when you were a kid. Was the guy caught, or was the guy
Yes.
prosecuted, or was
He was, yeah.
punished?
He was. He was caught very quickly afterwards. I think he was out on parole, so I think he wanted to get caught again. The police, the detectives were incredible. They were absolutely incredible. Like all of the stuff that happened around it, with me being questioned afterwards, they were so good. With clearly used to like working with children, like came down to my level and got me calm and all this kind of thing, because I was in shock for a long, long time, as you can imagine.
For sure.
But gave a very, very, apparently I gave one of the best descriptions of my age. And he got caught like within a couple of hours. And I had to identify him, but I didn't have to go in and see him in person, because that would have been a bit too much. So they did it on video, which was really good. So I could identify him there. Yeah, and then he went back to prison. He had a record of he'd done worse, I think, to a 15-year-old. I think he'd actually raped her, which is just awful. So very messed up guy. Yeah. I don't know anything about him now. I mean, he wasn't. I think the police said to Mum, is there like anything that was going to help you or like make you feel more calm, and saying that he's not allowed anywhere within the Gloucestershire area again.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that happened. But yeah, he did get caught, and I just remember the police being just so good, like so amazing
that's
with
really
everything.
good.
Yeah.
Did you go and do any like therapy or any
Yes.
kind of work on it?
Yeah, my mum is a therapist, so I had therapy coming out my ears as a kid.
That would have been great.
But yeah, I did. I had therapy with it, and we did a lot of work on it. And I think, that's probably why I can talk about it so openly now, because as a kid, I used to get flashbacks. So I used to get dreams and wake up with panic attacks, and just I think that's a normal process of dealing with something, and I don't get that anymore. And the one thing that's left over is the PTSD with my mouth and my teeth. So my poor dentist is like, right, Ruth's coming in again, so we're just gonna she's amazing. She's like, oh, you're doing so well, and I'm like trying to punch her, from the seat. And she's like, I have to be sedated because I can't control myself, and like even under sedation, I'm like trying to like lash out, and like my mum or my partner's there, like, we're just gonna gently hold her arms down. Sorry, everybody.
Just gonna gently restrain her. Oh.
Yeah, well, at least I put up a fight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's the
good
thing. That's the one thing that I haven't quite conquered. But yeah, it was a long time to let go of it. But yeah, it's something that I've been able to speak to other young women about, which has been really good.
That's really good.
That's important.
Yeah.
I mean, I think. Do you think? Obviously, your mum's a therapist, so you would talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
I would assume that this is not too uncommon to happen, and I also imagine there's a lot of parents and maybe people don't have the same support structure that you might have had that want to talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
or have that conversation. So there's, a lot of people walking around with undealt with trauma
Yeah, absolutely.
from this. Do you think that, the conversations we're having now and talking about it more, do you think this is going to help people be able to talk about these problems as young teens as well?
Because it allows you to.
Yeah.
Being allowed to talk about it is really important. Being told you're allowed to talk about it. Like, I was always allowed to talk about it. It was always something that my mum and my family knew was going to be a big thing to get over, and so I was nurtured through it, and actually, interestingly, recently, I've become aware of how my mum must have felt through that. I was never aware of that. It was always like, it was my thing to deal with. And as an adult now, and, having friends with kids and like being much more of that role in kids' lives, it makes you more aware of it and thinking, oh my God, like that must have been such a traumatic thing for her to get over. And fortunately, we had very, very close family friends that we went to stay with for quite a while, and I never realized that would have been for her. And I was having a great time, my friends, and they had like a really big house with lovely gardens, and I was like thinking, oh, this is just a nice treat for me because I've had a terrible thing happen, whereas that was totally for her because she needed a support from her friends who helped her through that, and so it is interesting how many people that one guy's actions have affected. And yeah, I think you're right. Like, the more conversations we have, the more it allows people to talk. It doesn't victim blame. It doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, protecting your male friends because they may feel uncomfortable hearing about abuse on women. We need to stop doing that. We need to be talking about it. It needs to be a conversation for everybody, not just within women's bathrooms, like it needs to be a group conversation. But yeah. Hopefully that's like giving you a good perspective of, trying to be not, trying to be not imbalanced, and
you can say whatever the fuck you want though. That's what we do. And that's why, thank you so much for sharing your perspective and also telling us about your story. I had no idea.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm very thankful that we can call you our friend and that you feel comfortable enough being vulnerable with us.
Thanks, Ruth.
I think that's a really special thing. And we could talk about this probably forever, and maybe we should do another podcast in a month and we talk about it more. And because I feel like we've just scratched the surface with a lot of stuff, and it's an important conversation to keep having.
Yeah. Well done, guys,
for
making a space to talk about it as well. I think that's important, and asking me to come and give my 2 cents.
I have some more questions for Ruth. If we switch topics and change gears a little bit, you just put out a really cool tune with Molly Collins called Remedies.
I did.
And I heard it the other day. I was listening at the gym and I was like, that's a really cool tune. I got to send a message to Molly and send a message to Ruth and say it's like really not lovely. And then I was like, I've just been humming it. It's just in my head.
Yay.
It's like it's an absolute earworm and just like such a lovely little like roll, and like the sentiment of it is really lovely. Yeah, I think that one's gonna go really well for you, and congrats.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the response has been insane. It's just like, it's crazy which songs are the ones that catch on, and I've had loads of messages. I mean, it's the subjects about addiction.
Yeah, for sure.
Dealing with addiction, and I've had a lot of like people get in touch about their own journey with addiction. So that's been really nice to have those conversations with people. And it's a song. It's like, it's one of those songs that you write for someone as a present. Like, when you're like, I see that you went through this and I get it, and I just want you to be all right, and I love you, kind of thing. So it's really nice that people have connected to it in the way they have, because it's, you know, it's a really special song for me.
And what's it called for the listener so they can go check it out?
It's called Remedies by Ruth Royall and Molly Collins, out everywhere.
Yes, you got the plug in. So often we'll record the podcast and we'll be like, oh my gosh, we never even mentioned what we were talking about for 15 minutes. Oh my God.
we had to do a Spotify ad the other day for it, and with the amount of things we got wrong, we were like, this is Ruth Royall and Molly Collins. No, we said it the wrong way around. Who's Molly? Molly? No, you're Molly. I'm Molly. Right. You're listening to Remedy. And then we sent it over there like, you missed the fact with Spotify. Oh, sorry. You're listening on Spotify. No, you've got to have the track. Oh, sorry. Got to have the track. You're listening. It's like, oh, for God's sake, guys, come on. But we got there in the end.
Yeah, it's great. Can you reveal anything you're working on at the moment?
Yes, I can, because it's gone out for promo. You guys heard this ages ago, actually. You heard this tune. It's called Forget the Rain. It's coming out in April with our buddy Josh Graphics.
Yes, this tune's sick.
Yeah, it was originally going to be for my solo project. But that's now happening in a different way. More to be revealed. But yeah, but so it's now going out as Paper Dragon and graphics. But I love this song. It's like so special to me, and like it's one of those songs that weirdly, like, it took me ages to write. Like, I was writing all the piano bits and the this and the that, and I had it with Josh in mind, and I was like, I just need to get into studio with Josh, and like I was like writing out all these parts, and then I couldn't settle on the chorus, and then got into studio with Josh, and the magic happened, and it just really flowed. And he, like, because I said to him, I was like, this is a tune I want to do. This is the vibe that I have in my head. And he was like, I know the vibe you have in your head. I know exactly what you're thinking, and just like did it. And we just sat there and we're like,
he's a special little boy, isn't he?
He is. We love Josh. So yeah, that's coming out 16th of April, and I'm really excited.
Awesome.
Woo!
Awesome. What are your socials, Ruth? Tell people where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at Ruth Royall Vocals. Just got to do the Ruth Royall with a double L, and you'll find me.
As Ruth Royall, as Jonathan would be
Ruth Royall,
prone to saying previously. Also, Ruth has a really cool podcast, Jonathan.
Yes.
Keep It Real podcast.
Keep It Real podcast. Yes. Yep. Spawned from the Keep It Real movement of self-love and appreciation for one's awesomeness. But yeah, chatting to some, it's all kind of like people from the drum and bass scene, and there's some really cool conversations on there, like a lot around mental health and things like that. I have one last one last episode to come out in the series, and then I'm taking a little breather before the next series, because I'm a busy lady.
Yeah.
You do a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
it's really
but it's been really great. It feels like a nice little sort of sealed off as a series, and be like, here you go, world.
And where can people
so yeah, go check that out. That's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and everywhere.
And it's called
I think.
just Keep It Real, or
it's just called Keep It Real with Ruth Royall. Yeah, so yeah, go and have a listen.
I'll listen to the real one.
And come and say hi. I love it when people come and say hi on my Instagram. I'm like, hello. Yeah. So yeah, great.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you
it's been really lovely to just see you guys as well.
Thanks for cutting out the time in your busy day to.
You make me sound like a right wanker.
No.
I could schedule you in.
You've got stuff to do. I'm gonna go and drink. Jonathan's gonna.
Yeah, but this is up there on the priority list. I love chatting to you guys.
One day, Ruth, you and I will be in the same room, and we will meet.
I know, right? That I am very excited about that day, Jeff. Like,
we should do a live podcast.
I know.
We could actually have a real conversation.
When me and Jono met for the first time, it was like the best day of my life. Literally, I was so excited, and I'm a very excitable person. Those of you who don't know me, I get very excitable, and Jono's a very cool, chilled kind of guy. So I was like, hi, nice to meet you. Hi, and he was like, hey, dude, and I was just like, hey. Tone it down a bit, tone it down. But yeah, it's going to be a great time.
It will be.
I think it'll happen. It'll happen this year.
Yeah, I'm willing it to happen this year.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ruth.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys. I love you both.
I love you guys.
Love you guys. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Make sure you subscribe to us on your podcast app and keep up to date with all new episodes. They're going to be coming out once a week. We are Ekko and Sidetrack on Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, we are Ekko Sidetrack. Go listen to our music on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube, or wherever your ears consume happiness. Lots of love, people.